So very warm welcome to all our speakers today, very warm welcome to all our attendees that unfortunately we cannot see face to face, but we can see your number increasing. So a very warm welcome, especially because you made it to this late session today. This is our first day of the summer week of events here in the lab. And this evening is dedicated to a case law tagging project that Livio and Patrizio have put together within the lab. We think it's a project that showcases a technology that can have real significance in the legal sector. It's the basis for further applications that can respond to the dynamics of explainable AI. And tonight we will try and venture into what technology we are talking about and into its potential applications into the legal sector. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our very distinguished panel that we're very happy to have tonight with us. I will start first of all from the first person that I see on my screen. It's Melina Efstathiou. We're very grateful to have Melina here. She is taking the place of Nick Randall, who unfortunately cannot join us for a very 2021 problem of vaccination appointments. Melina is the head of litigation technology at Eversheds Sutherland. She's also one of the minds behind the Propel at Eversheds. So we're really, really grateful for your presence tonight, Melina.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Next to Melina, there is Livio Robaldo. Livio Robaldo joined the Legal Innovation Lab Wales as a senior lecturer in computational law in August 2020. He previously worked at the University of Torino and then at the University of Luxembourg. And he's a specialist on natural language processing, knowledge extraction, web ontologies, and XML standards applied to the legal domain. And finally, we have Patrizio Gelosi with us. Patrizio is a software engineer. He's also an entrepreneur. He's the co-founder and CEO of ReadContract. And Patrizio's worked with Livio to provide some of the underlying technologies for the case law tagging project that we're going to discuss tonight. So thank you so much to all our speakers for joining us today. We hope that will be a very enjoyable experience. So without further ado, we're going to dedicate the first part of this webinar to talking a little bit about the project itself, the technologies used in the project, and to give you a little demonstration of how the project actually works. So I will pass the baton to Patrizio first to introduce his role in the project and to talk a little bit about the technologies that he's providing. And then Livio, you will have the floor to show actually the project in action.
Okay, can you hear me? Everybody can,
yes.
Can hear me? So I will share my screen. So I prepared some slide. Okay, this I don't need to explain because thanks to Stefano who introduced me so well. Okay, this is you can see at the bottom of my email address, patrizio.gelosi@handycontract.com. So you can feel free to email me for any question. So everything. So basically, I've been in the legal tech industry since 2017. So what happened in 2017? In that year, some auditors from Cardiff asked me if I could develop an app to extract from legal documents metadata of two types, date and money amounts. So from that initial request, basically I developed a universal technology for document structure analysis called IDS, Identify the Structure. It's a technology to identify the structure of legal documents in any language and format. When I say structure, I mean hierarchies of sections and number of lists. The ITS technology has many applications in document processing. In today's session, we will focus on the improvement in the process of extracting metadata. But as you can see, it's also used to convert documents into templates, in collaborative editing, redaction, translations, and more. ITS is currently utilized in two web apps provided by HandyContract, ReadContract, which is an essential platform to aid the reading and comprehension of a document, even from small devices. Contract Workbox, which includes also tools to modify the content of the document Then also the ITS technology is integrated in third-party processes such as pilot case law tagging project from Swansea University, which Livio will explain later. This is the workflow of the web app Contract Workbox. Users can upload either a scan of a document or a natively digital document, such as a PDF, docx, text. And after that the document is processed, a set of tools is available to the users from UA. So now I'm going to explain you how it works, how a document can be uploaded with Contract Workbox. I will show you my other screen. Here we are. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is the web app Contract Workbox. I will use it to process a 75-page document. This is an Apple Developer Program License Agreement I will move this one because it's okay. It's this document has a definition section at the beginning, then has a main body, and then some attachment at the bottom. So I can upload the document from this panel. So I just drag and drop, and after a few seconds, basically the document is the structure of the document is identified. So you can see the original document on the right. So this is the Apple agreement that we have just seen, and on the left you can see the structure, so the list of the section and subsection that can be navigated from these icons. For example, I can go into for example, the obligations section, and then again to section 3.3, and again 3.3.4. And for example, you can see that the definitions at the beginning have been identified. So if I go, if I hover with the cursor on one term defined in the glossary, an inline pop-up will show me the definition, how is it has been defined in the glossary itself. Or for the same happens, for example, for the internal references. So if I go on 3.3.25, I see the content of 3.3.25. This is, so basically, this is the way you can navigate. You can also navigate using this toolbar. If now we focus on the extraction of metadata, for example, we can use this tool that allows us to see all the metadata grouped by type. So basically, we see that we have 1,325 organization names, then one money amount, one percentage, some date and time measures, geographical locations, legal references, products, and emails and links. So for example, and this is a hierarchical view. So basically I can click here and expand and see in details which are these the organization that has been identified. So as we expect, we find 1,156 times Apple, because this is about Apple, but we also find other organizations such as, for example, if I expand the export control, we see that for example, the Apple software may not report it, and we see, for example, something related to the US Department of Commerce or the US Treasury Department. So if I click here, I can see these entities, this data from exactly from their context. Same happens for example, data and time measures. I can expand. For example, and see that there are two data related to determination. So the dates to cure breach, for example. Or, for example, I can see the legal references. The legal references, I can see, for the government and user, for example, or the governing law. For example, the claims complaints be subjected to the Tucker Act, Federal Tort Claims Act, and these are some legal reference in this document. The unlinked data are all collected under this caption, so I can expand this one and see that there are some reference to, for example, to the Luxembourg Code of Commerce and so on. So this is one first way to view the data. Another way, more compact, is a report that I can access if I click here, and here I can find all the main data related to this document. So in one panel. So that is party A, that is Apple link, or for example, the registered office address. Party B, the duration, term, renewal, and so on, the legal venue, and so on. So if I click on the left panel, I can also see on the right, on the original document, exactly where this data is taken. So if I click 30 days, for example, I see exactly where it is. The same data can be utilized also, for example, to redact the document, to hide some confidential information in this document, and then share the document to other users. Because basically the confidential informations are in most cases the same as the one that I've just shown. So for example, if I click this button, there is a blackout wizard, a wizard to redact, to help me to redact the document. I can select which type of data to hide, and then after I click this button, after a few seconds, in which the entities are blacked out, I will see here they are. So all the entities that have been identified are blacked out, are hidden. So if now, if I won't do, now I would invite a user, share with a user the document, the user would see the document with the information blacked out. Another similar another usage of this data can be while converting the document to a template. So I can do a similar operation to convert. For example, I want to convert this document to a document for Acme Inc. So I can change the title here, select as before the data I want to convert into fields of the templates, and here are the fields. Here are the data converted into fields. So if I want to, for example, change it into Acme document, I just type Acme, and Acme is replaced in every field of Apple. Then I can, for example, I can export in a document, a Word document, and I can see the result this export. As you can see, the document is with Acme, with the Acme name replaced. So, okay, this is more or less, okay, as you can see, there are many functions here. I want I won't spend more time to describe them all, but I will let Livio explain us more about the project with Swansea University. Okay, Livio, you can go.
Yeah, if I may to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, indeed, what Patrizio does in ReadContract is very similar to what I was doing in my former university, and that's why Patrizio and I went along so well since the beginning. We started working together, because in my previous university I also had a spin-off, and we were commercializing this service, Eunomos, that was in which we were crawling legal text of different kinds, and then by applying natural language technology, we were recognizing metadata and a relation between the metadata. These were organized within a conceptual graph, an ontology that was then shown to the user of Eunomos as an hypertext that will facilitate the navigation within the legal documents. And here we basically decided to develop this demo because the spin-off was closed in the beginning of January. So what I'm trying to do now is to use the same technology, the same methods in new use cases. So basically, I'm searching for new use cases. And with Patrizio, we developed this demo together that download the PDF from Judiciary. That is this website from which you can crawl judgments from here, like this one. And these judgments are available in PDF. So what we did is to download 100 of these PDF, and then our demo by combining our technology. So the PDF has been inserted here in locally. What we do is to use the same technology in order to transform this PDF into LegalDocML, which is an XML standard for the legal domain, and nowadays all primary legislation in UK is already available in LegalDocML. So what we are trying also to do is to connect with these documents that are already available in the website legislation.gov.uk, but they only represent primary legislation. An idea could be also to add jurisprudence in order to enable interoperability between the two. And the demo is here, so without I run the demo in this way, and here in the output directory will produce the accomantoso file of these documents from Judiciary. So it's producing here the file, and if I open this, so this is the LegalDocML file corresponding to one of these case law from Judiciary. This one, and here this is the same text that you can find here, but here in accomantoso we recognize the courts, the judges, the dates, and each of them has been associated with a concept in an ontology that is reported here in the meta section of the document, and it is used in order to enable navigation and search across the documents. And the demo that you can see online is available here in this URL that I reported here on this slide, so that I guess this slide will be made available after the presentation. If you go here, you click, you find, you should find here, now I don't see anything, what's going on? Wow.
These things happen, don't worry.
It's not a problem, it's a problem of the website that it doesn't refresh. No, sorry. And these things always happen when you present a demo. So here you have all the case law.
Sorry, Livio, I think we're not seeing your screen correctly. We're just seeing a gray background or a blue background. Now we see your PowerPoint.
Now you see the website?
No.
So let me reshare again. Here?
Yes.
You should see it.
Yeah,
okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is the demo that, so the case law that I showed you before are available online, and the LegalDocML file are available here. Is the same format in which you find all primary legislation in UK. As here you can also, there is also a link to the original PDF from Judiciary. And here, this is just the web interface that from this LegalDocML file, it shows the information in a way that is easy to navigate, like it was in Enormous. So for instance, if you click on the name of the judge, here you find all the case law in which the judge has been involved. So for this, the judge, Lord Justice Flo, was involved in all these use cases, case law, sorry. And you click and you can find, so these are a basic trivial way of navigating. We don't want to deliver any industrial service, but we made this demo in order to make clear that we can apply the same technology to existing use cases for specific and also commercial purposes in order to enable navigation and analysis of the document. You can see here that also the structure has been recognized. This has been specifically given us from ReadContract. And here within the paragraph, we could also make more specific analysis to recognize the dates, to recognize the organization. Then the recognized organization can be also searched on Google in order to get more information to perform a red analysis. And now, as I say, this is just a general purpose demo, but then what we want to do is to get in touch with industry in order to define a specific use cases with a specific objective in which using the same technology. And this is this is considered the future. What I'm talking about. This is explainable and symbolic artificial intelligence, and it is seen as the future of legal tech. That in the sense that in the next 5-10 years, it is expected that most research and innovation in legal tech will employ technologies such as the one that we have shown, because in the last 5-10 years, as you may have heard, the research and the innovation has been mostly focused on machine learning, but machine learning is just applying a statistical function to text trained, and then the new data to classify will get an accuracy equal to 80% or maybe up to 90%, but per se it doesn't carry out any particular logical analysis of the text. So here we are trying to do something different. We are trying to put meaning in what we are doing by manipulating existing organizations or existing entities and the structure of the document in order to enable conceptual searches. And this is the path to explainability. I'm pretty sure that you have heard this buzzword, the explainable AI, that everyone is talking about, because machine learning algorithms are intrinsically non-explainable because, as I say, they transform text into vectorized representation. So the only explanation that they are able to give you are the numbers that, for instance, in a neural network connect the neurons of one another. But these numbers are not intelligible by a human because they are just numbers. And even if we could understand them, they will just explain the statistical formula that they are implementing, that is behind. And on the other hand, here we are not trying to apply statistics, but we are trying to reason with XML tagging, like for instance in LegalDocML, this is a standard that I told you. We are trying to use this standard in order to identify the relevant concepts that could be dates or names of person, of organization, but also other concepts like who won, which party won the case law, and for what reason, for also arguments, and this kind of other concepts, in order to enable automatic reasoning, that is, apply rules that, given this concept and the way they are related, are able to make inferences in order to help the lawyer doing his job faster and to control his job, to assist him in monitoring the data that is manipulated in order to find out errors and suggestion for improvements. And as you can imagine, this is different from machine learning and requires a stronger collaboration between experts in law and experts in computer science, because it is in particular the expert in law that should tell us how to make the knowledge base. And while for machine learning you only need computer scientists, because you just have the Python function that you have to apply to the data, and then the statistical formula will do the job for you. Here we need legal experts that tell us which are the relevant concepts in a certain domain and where to locate them within the text in order to create this association that enable automatic reasoning. So this is more time consuming and more knowledge intensive. And this is exactly the reason why nowadays there are more and more LegalTech modules and masters in the law faculty. And so for instance, like here in Swansea University, but not only, there are several universities in the world nowadays that offer LegalTech master courses, because we need lawyers to do this job. We no longer need only computer science to apply some statistical function to the text, because we need the lawyers that tell us and help us how to organize this knowledge on the right. That is at the basis of this novel technology, which is explainable legal tech, but more generally is explainable artificial intelligence, because you can apply the same principle, of course, to any domain, not only to the legal domain. And this is the path to link the open data that I guess you also read. You know that this technology is actually at the basis of semantic web, and all information, first of all, the one in the World Wide Web has been tagged conceptually with respect to ontologies. What we want to do is to add our own ontologies that are built from concepts that you extract from legislation and from jurisprudence, from the legal doctrine, because interpreting legislation is an holistic process. It involves not only the primary legislation that you can find on your website, but then the concept from the primary legislation needs to be interpreted in a specific context. And this is done by jurisprudence and legal doctrine. So there is a network of concepts that you need to extract and to organize from these documents toward the construction of an ontology that can organize and index archives to help lawyers or industries in performing their job faster and more accurately. And it is very important to do so in the legal domain, because legal domain, there are already a lot of ontologies in other domains, so in the financial domain or in the health domain, but there are not much in the legal domain, which is counterintuitive, because legislation, regulation are at the basis of whatever we do in life, from finance to health. Everything needs to be regulated, so that we need a strong and accurate repository of concepts precisely in the legal domain in order to cross this data. And this repository needs to be written in a standardized way in order to facilitate crossing with other knowledge base outside the legal domain in order to basically distinguish what is compliant with what is non-compliant with the regulation in the health domain, in the financial domain, or in any other domain. And this is what we are trying to do also within the Legal Innovation Lab ways. And that's all what I had to say. I already see that there is a question.
Yes, and, I'll come to it in a moment, Livio. So.
Okay, so I stop sharing.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Livio, and thank you, Patrizio. Of course, I was a little bit worried about the copyright in that Apple contract. It's it's a very interesting technology. I think that both of you have developed with clear applications, I think, in the legal sector. So, and Sarah, I have your question in mind, and we'll come to it in a moment. But first, I wanted to ask Melina what your impressions are about the project that's been put together, about the potential of this technology to be applied more widely within a law firm, and what sort of opportunities do you think that it provides? Where do you see some limitations if you do? And also, what sort of information you think would be most important for a law firm to extract from case law? And of course, it's a question that depends on the area of law and so on. But what are your thoughts about this work?
Yeah, of course. First of all, it's incredibly impressive work, I should say, both Patrizio and Livio. It's truly impressive work, and definitely, driven by the requirements and what I see day to day in our particular law firm, and I think law firms practically everywhere. This is exactly what drives what we're trying to achieve when it comes to insight of data, whether this is logical extraction of entities and particular metadata and particular information that then can become like a very, very good repository for us to be able to then compare future files towards to, or whether it is towards what Patrizio was showing prior to marrying it up with Livio's amazing work, which was about being able to not just extract the things, but equally group them intelligently under my favorite out of all of them, Patrizio, was the legal references, because you had a great way of literally being able to concentrate any piece of legislation that has been referenced into a particular document. And I think where that comes as a really, really important thing into play is where we're talking about case strategy and helping our lawyers understand which are the key pieces of legislation I need to look at, or when it comes to this particular judgment, what were the pieces of legislation that even changed the behavior of the judge itself. So overall, I would think that, first of all, as I said, the tools individually and married up as an endeavor for the university are incredibly superb, and they are towards the right direction. I think if I take off my litigation hats a little bit and I try to speak a bit broader, in terms of the information that I believe lawyers would want to get captured from cases, again, we would start from very logical entity extraction, as we call it, organization, people, locations, judges, courts, chambers involved, if there was counsel instructed, etc., etc. And then, of course, you can get more towards information that, as we said, through then the combination of an algorithm and predictions, it can give you the next step. First, you got the extraction, the repository, and what have you, and then you move on to the actual predictions of outcomes, predictions of how many things you might need for a case, etc., etc. And I think that does, of course, heavily depend on the data that you're manipulating, heavily, almost a little bit feeling the pain of Sarah's question as well. It's very, very tricky. According to the data that I'm sure Livia have seen it, and Patrizio herself, we're lucky when we're working with more, how do I call it, predictable data, emails, for example, email correspondence or judgments or anything of the sort. And it's very, very tricky when we're talking about more unstructured data and things that may have information all over the place. So the results would be more defensible when the structure of the files is more definable and more predictable, and the results may need more manipulation from the wonderful developers and the engineers, like the two that we've got on board, when it comes to more unpredictable data. Also, what I loved about this particular endeavor So the first question I had, Patrizio, you kept presenting, and I was like, I'm going to ask him about sensitive information, and I'm going to get him, and I'm going to ask him about redactions and what have you. And then you showed this blackout wizard, which I've actually noted down, which is an answer to the lawyer's prayers, in all honesty. Not only are you able to do this by way of individual terms, but equally then bulk redacts wherever it says these terms very helpfully in the said documents. And then how I can see that becoming immediately translatable and helpful with Livio's intervention, so then it becoming a repository of judgments and things that a greater audience can basically get benefit of, is that information still allows the judgment to be part of what we're trying to achieve, to see essentially what's happened behind the judgments and the rulings without, of course, revealing any confidential information. I work a lot in arbitration cases, and I was actually having a side chat with Stefano for different reasons earlier in the day. And I was saying the predicament that we're in, because when trying to build a repository for those cases, particularly by nature of law, arbitration cases are meant to be private, and they've got a lot of confidential information. So when we're trying to build a helper repository for the lawyers, so then they know, it's very tricky, because in all honesty, perhaps 80% of the content of the judgments will be redactable completely out. So you're kind of sitting there a little bit wondering, well, if I can't really base any judgment or any predictability by using this explainable AI, is this actually a health repository? Do I even have a good base, a good foundation that I can build on to then produce what you're trying to achieve? I think overall, if I think it logically from machine learning, particularly when I think about what we have within the toolkit of our firm and how we work with lawyers, I mean, we work a lot with predictive methodology, predictive coding, and things like that, which exactly as Livio was explaining, it takes it from the very static, I see word A, this, and basically I'm able to do a more statistical analysis, but it moves on towards conceptual analysis and prediction when it sees clusters of terms, patterns, if you'd like, if that makes more sense for our audience, and of course, everybody on the panel. So if I'm a lawyer and I'm working on a particular case, I can categorize 10 documents as something, and then the machine learns from them because I'm qualified as a subject matter expert. Of course, it will need to be a larger sample than 10 documents, and then it will predict out of the other unreviewed population that I've got sitting on this side, how many documents match conceptually with what I'm seeing over here, and therefore could equally be relevant or hot or privileged, whatever it is that I'm looking for in the particular document review. Just giving a couple of experience and live examples, I suppose, from what we do day to day, linking it, of course, to what we're seeing here today as well.
Now that's an incredibly useful reflection. I think you've touched upon a lot of different issues. So I did wonder if, well, I have a couple of questions for Livio and Patrizio coming from what you just said. One indeed for Patrizio about the sort of blacking out sensitive information. And I was wondering, you know, if you can tell us a little bit more about how this happens, if there's any limitation to this, you know, within what boundaries are we operating here? Because of course, being able to identify sensitive information and potentially blacking them out is a really important future for lawyers.
Yeah, basically here, what I'm doing here is just starting from the data. So the concept is from the data. The concept is that in most cases, what you need to hide is also what the information that you retrieve. So basically, the theme today is the metadata extraction. So this is the match. And of course, is not only in many cases is so maybe I don't know, the question can be I read the question as something like the chance to develop the opportunity to develop this function. So basically, this one can be extended because in some cases you don't want only to hide organization names, person names, money, legal reference, and so on. Here is as in this list, but in some cases you need something more advanced. So basically we can train the engine to do one step more in the processing and identify something that you may want to hide based on the concept on the meaning on the sentence themselves, not just on the data. So I don't know if so. This is something like a next step that can be. I reply from the technical point of view. I don't know if that was
no, but this is exactly what I had in mind. I think it was that second step of sort of going beyond the sort of named entities and going, to the step that you mentioned of sort of identifying the sentences overall that might need that. No, that's extremely interesting. Livio, did you want to add anything on this? Sorry.
No. I just that blacking out can be actually a complex matter because it's not only to hide a single name, but okay, within an organization that have to prepare also several parts of the contract, it could be useful. Could be still a useful functionality, the one of blacking out the single names. So
no, fantastic. No, I think that's that's a very important point that Melina has touched on. I think you've given a clear sort of overview of the challenges there. And the other question that also comes from what Melina just said, and comes of course from the question that Sarah has asked as well, is in terms of use of data and the sort of limitations that come from the data sources that you've used in particular for this project. So I wondered if you wanted, especially Livio probably, to share some thoughts on this and the limitations on the data.
No, the data, so Sarah is totally right that all the documents, administrative and legal, so more administrative than legal, are messy because they have been prepared by human, that they just use their human brain to prepare, and so they spread a lot of errors, a lot of inconsistencies in the documents. These technologies that I'm talking about should be used at the source precisely to avoid this problem. So one active use of this technology is to align the data when they are produced. So not only at the end to extract the data and try to understand what the initial source were trying to say, but they should guide the source to produce a new consistent data consistent with what they said before. Okay, so they should be used. That's why we talk now about prosumers of the knowledge, because they are producer and consumer of the knowledge at the same time. Precisely to avoid because if you produce information without any control, any double check of what you have said before, it's very difficult for a human to keep the information aligned with all what has been said before, possibly also by other humans. And on the other hand, if you have a machine that helps you in the drafting of the information, the first aim is precisely to maintain consistency with the knowledge that is being already asserted. Okay.
So can we, would it be correct to sort of suggest that, a key point here is not to apply this technology retrospectively? I mean, it's doable, but it's not ideal. One ideal starting point would be to basically create these documents in this format in the first place.
There will be a transition, hopefully, in the future. So now we already arrive with a lot of legacy documents that are inconsistent, they contain errors. Then we use this technology to find out the inconsistency, then there will be committee meetings. I don't know, the relevant authorities will sit around the table and they say, look, the artificial intelligence found this information which is inconsistent with this one. Both documents are currently in force, so have a legal power. We need to do something, and they will decide a way to align the two information to a new document that override the old ones. This is what, and I don't know, you are the expert, I'm a computer scientist, so I understood that this is the way it works when they found out these inconsistencies by hand. The only difference is that now there will be a machine that they will find them more and more. And then the new produced knowledge will be already tagged, annotated, conceptually annotated, so that in the future it will be easier to, we will converge to a consistently aligned logical source information available at disposal of everyone. This should be the goal. Okay, so I know that the situation now is exactly as what Sarah depicts, but we want to start. We have to start from to clean the knowledge out there from somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I wonder, Melina, if you also had some more thoughts on this, in the sense that I imagine that, you know, for Eversheds, Sutherland, like other big law firms, there's a significant issue in sort of collecting all this data and being able from the start to basically standardize these documents to some extent. So is there some work that you're doing in this space? Is there something that, for example, you're looking at, or what are your thoughts on?
It is indeed. It's an absolutely hot area, as I call it, like lately, in terms of trends and in the industry overall. And if I could simplify it and segregate it, we're talking about internal data capture and analysis, and then external data capture and analysis. So, and we have a mission on both fronts. So from an internal perspective, we have this project code, called Data Lake, that in a nutshell, we're trying to capture retrospectively to the best of our ability, but definitely moving forward, as best and as key information from legal cases that needs to be there and needs to build that repository, so that then it can serve, as we were saying earlier, and as all of us have agreed, as a really, really good foundation to also be able to see consistencies or potential inconsistencies across, for example, multiple cases pertaining to a single and the same client. So we're dealing with this internal data lake, and we're trying, and this data lake is being fed by data that will be available from lawyers, available from our own systems, such as like document management systems and what have you, that deal with our legal cases. And equally, we would like to feed into it some external legal data, which is actually part of an initiative that I am co-heading for the team. And this is very close to the project that I've seen through the amalgamation of what Patrizio and Livio are doing. We are currently piloting a particular tool that is going and capturing information from jurisdictional decisions and what have you, and is basically holding it in a central repository to be able to identify trends across particular clients, trends across particular courts, and also in terms of our own cases as Eversheds Sutherland. And that can equally be very useful in terms of future opportunities and business development that, of course, we can all appreciate, very important for law firms. And equally, as we were saying, case strategy, because they have an algorithm tied to it that basically leads to prediction of outcomes. I mean, I will not lie to you, working in-house in a law firm, when you talk to lawyers and we talk about predictions, the first thing you typically get is a raised eyebrow and a lot of skepticism. Patrizio is nodding. He says, yes, I know the eyebrow. I'm sure Livio will agree as well. It takes a lot to be able to not convince, relay in simpler terms the defensibility behind that prediction of outcomes and why we want to basically implement it. And what I think is good is for us, when we have sufficient testing. So even with retrospective information, Stefano, because you were saying, I mean, we could go back and look, but ideally we want to be applying this moving forward. There is a lot of value and quality when we're doing particular exercises retrospectively, because that can then gives us the proof that we need when we're talking to lawyers to essentially say, here's why the system works. Look at this. We went and we've applied it to a closed case. So we're not hurting anyone. We're not telling anyone, you know, go and do this differently right now, but we're showing you the value behind that technology. So do I think there is a challenge in there itself? Absolutely. Technology overall never gets adopted overnight, but I think it's a challenge that all of us included, whether we're talking about computer scientists, whether we're talking about e-discovery professionals, developers, anything, it's bread and butter of our work. We love that challenge and we work towards shifting the adoption of technology a lot broader.
You know, that's a really interesting reflection. And of course, we were chatting earlier today, and you know, this issue of defensibility came into play quite significantly. And I was wondering, Livio and Patrizio, what are your thoughts essentially on whether explainable AI can help with the issue of defensibility? Because I do think that to some extent, you know, being able to justify the predictions that legal tech systems are making is a great step towards defensibility, towards, you know, greater trust in this technology. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of course it can do it, because when there is a prediction, so if we don't have to decide to send someone to jail, we must justify why. And but with explainable AI, since we are using concept, it will be also easier to filter out biases that are on the other end the cancer of machine learning approaches. And nowadays there are several approaches to how to remove them statistically from the machine learning algorithm. But with explainable AI, we can just understand which nodes with concept are involved in a certain reasoning, and if these involve concept like the color of the skin, we of course discharge the explanation like that.
Very, very interesting. Yes, Patrizio, did you want to add anything on this concept of explainable AI and starting from?
Well, basically, the point is the best thing maybe is also to find. Well, I wouldn't see the word black or white. So yeah, explainable AI. It's enhancement. It's but also we can also when we say machine learning, we mean now under this term there are plenty of concepts that has been developed in many particular ways and so on. So maybe the best would be to find a solution, some solutions that may join together different technologies and improve also them in innovative ways. That may be the key of the future, because everybody now is convinced that, like Livio said, that machine learning as it is it's used in many cases as many pain points. But of course, now the point is how to overcome, or if to overcome them, or to completely replace with other technologies. That's and so in some cases the answer is not one simple answer. The answer in many cases in the real world is a complex answer.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much, Patrizio. So we only have about 5 minutes before we finish this webinar. So I guess I have a final question for all of you, which is simply about the future of a project like this. Where are we going from now in your view? What sort of challenges are you ready to tackle next? And I will start, you know, like we did at the beginning, I will start from Patrizio and go to Livio and finally to Melina for a reflection from a more legal point of view. What's the future, Patrizio?
Well, the future, I think, is that the future is that we all die, basically. So all the technology, also the technology will, this technology will finish. Why? Because it's like Livio said before. So in a perfect world, you must imagine that in most cases we won't need this technology. But this perfect world will come in 50 years, in 100 years, I don't know. It's impossible to predict. What I mean is, in a perfect world, they will use the blockchain, the smart contract from the blockchain, and we most likely they don't need to, for example, to redact, to extract data. So the big challenge is the path from here to the perfect world, and this is a challenge, and it's also it contains also a lot of opportunities for the technologies that are involved in this. That is my thought, I think.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm scared or optimistic, but no, thank you very much. Livio.
For me, I'm pretty sure that this is the path, and sooner or later, in 5 years, 10 years, the explainable AI will, because now after 5-10 years of machine learning, I think also the industry is looking for something new, also to create a new competitive advantage. The problem is that there is still a lot of industry that really trust still too much machine learning, and so it's very difficult. The challenge is to put academia working together with industry, basically, and to convince industry to provide use cases in which academics can employ the technology that they are studied in a research level into an industrial level. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get in touch with a law firm by developing also this demo that now I'm using to advertise myself around, advertise this technology. But I'm still finding a lot of resistance by companies that tell me, no, machine learning is still better than this. And in particular, in the legal tech industry, in the law firm, there is even something worse, because many law firms think that artificial intelligence will steal their job. So it seems a joke, but it's true. I keep talking with lawyers, and then they told me my boss will never approve because they say that artificial intelligence will steal the job, and they don't want to use this thing. And this is the barrier that I'm personally finding now. I'm talking with law firm. I have a strong difficulty to convince them that this thing will really be needed, and sooner or later will be adopted, because they think that they are not effective. So, this is what I would like to ask Melina in particular. She belongs to the industry world. What she thinks about that? If she's here, of course, I guess she kind of agree with me, but she knows the context, the industrial context better than me. She can tell me whether these superstitions are existing or not.
If I may add something to what Livio said, is one thing is what he said. Okay, the superstition, but one thing a little bit less superstitious is that in most cases the attorneys, they charge by hour, and so they see with a little bit of suspect something that make them save the hour, because basically they say, okay, I will charge the customer for the hours that I work. So I don't care much if I have a tool that make me save some time. So this, in some cases, so the question can be, yes, superstition, or maybe something like what I said, that if they bill hourly their client, maybe they don't have interest in save time.
Let's hear some final thoughts from Melina. You know, I think they launched a challenge at you, Patrizio and Livio. So what are your final thoughts to close here? I suspect there could be many.
No, of course, many. So one of the sayings that I practically, think of and use almost daily in a law firm, lawyers think, like Livio was saying, the robots are going to take over, the machines are going to take over, and the lawyers are not going to be able to get to work anymore. So what we say to more skeptical people is that technology is not here to take over and replace lawyers. It will be the lawyers that use technology that will replace the lawyers who don't. And it's not even my saying, so you can quote me and steal it.
No,
and
I'm saying the same. I'm saying, I just say, look, artificial intelligence is something like a Google. Can you imagine that Google does the job in your place? But no, and now can you imagine a lawyer that uses Google with respect to another one that is still searching in archives, paper-based archives? So I try to say like this to convince them.
To convince them. No, of course. I think the silver lining is essentially a combination between the two. So what we find being extremely useful is when we're able to talk lawyers and make them understand that the technology is there to assist them with automation and particular things that will then free up their highly valuable billable time for the actual legal tasks and what have you. And I think in terms of some challenges in the future, when it comes to machine learning and artificial intelligence, it is about endorsement from the courts and the judges. There is still a bit of skepticism and resistance from there. So there is a little bit about education and training on that level as well. So it's not just our wonderful students in universities, the lawyers that we've got, but it goes all the way, all up to the generations that use the technology. And of course, when we're talking about law firms, one of the challenges will remain big data, because whilst we're trying to accommodate technologies and we've got the tools and we want to work with the Livios, the Patrizios, the Stefanos, everyone, the data just keeps building up and keeps accommodating. So we've got to find a way of taming that big data and being able to turn it into something that essentially is of more use and of predictability as well, like when it comes to law firms.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melina. Thank you so much, Livio, Patrizio. It's been fantastic having this webinar a little bit at a late time today, but I think lots of challenges, lots of thoughts about the future. And one little message also from myself, essentially, for all the people that will, that have been online today or that will watch this recording in the future, if some of the things that we discussed today sound very difficult to understand or challenging, and well, I think we need to have a dialogue around all these technologies, all these questions, all these challenges, because there is really something here that can benefit all the lawyers and all the law firms, whether the very small organizations to the really big ones. And of course, some of these technologies, some of the things that we discussed today will sound challenging for some and instead more familiar to others. But really, we think that this is the future and there's a space for everyone here. So for the future viewers of this recording of our webinar, we really hope that this inspires some thoughts. And if it sounded very challenging, please do get in touch. Let's have a dialogue around this and let's see if we can find ways to bring all these technologies together, forward together. So in the meanwhile, thank you so much to all three of you. You've contributed some fantastic thoughts and you've shared a lot about these technologies, the challenges, the future, and we're really, really grateful for your participation. So thank you very much, and thank you to all our attendees today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.